And it's a good time to talk to our good friend. Oh, I see what you did there. Jay Moore, Blackshirt, pride of Big Red Wrap Up, Elkhorn, Nebraska, NFL, hell of a golfer, good guy sitting in his office. Good morning.
Morning, guys. How we doing?
Good. I think I covered all of that. Please put the check in the mail. You can send it right to the radio station.
You take Venmo?
You know what? I don't have a Venmo, but I can set that up quickly.
Okay. All right. Just holler at me. We'll take care of it.
I love that John Bullock is getting his flowers because I loved him at Creighton Prep, and I wondered, wow, how do college coaches not see what I see doing games? And Nebraska said, "Hey, we'd like to see you run this number, and if you do, we got a scout." Not then, he's a walk on, and he's worked his way from the back end playing linebacker to all Big Ten ish, maybe NFL ish. I love that he got his flowers. We can talk about JB. But I want to talk about somebody else who, if you're looking at stats, you're like, oh, man, I think they're having a bad year. Can you walk us through what, because of how good he is, Nash Hutmacher is going through on a week-by-week basis on what he has to encounter to help the other 10 guys on the field?
Yeah, I think it's funny when, people are always paying attention to stat lines, splash plays, and if they're not, people aren't making those plays, they're probably like, oh, he's not playing well. Well, I think obviously you put Ty maybe in this category. You saw a little bit, Ty had that great sack against Purdue on Saturday afternoon, but it's kind of the difference of being the hunted versus the hunter in a guy like Nash's situation. People are identifying how good he is, and they're making sure, like, all right, this guy cannot ruin us. I think last year in the Big Ten and across the country and the teams that we played, there was a little bit of a learning curve with the 3-3-5. How does Tony White kind of want to handle things? Nash got a lot of one-on-one situations and was very, very successful. I think this year teams are like, we can't let him pick us apart. When you have a guy that is that agile and athletic and that strong at the point of attack, like Nash is, you got to identify two guys into his to take care of him. So I think he's taken on two guys, and I think now you've seen where the linebackers like a John Bullock and now that Javen Wright's back, they're going to be able to clean up in this situation because he's taken up two blockers. Offensive line coaches and offensive coordinators are identifying Nash and saying, "Hey, we can't block this guy single because he will kill us." So I think that's just the situation. I think he's playing just fine. I think he's made more plays that have impressed me just from his athletic ability. I mean, that play against Illinois where he chased down Altmaier on a 3rd and long-ish or 4th down play and knocked him out of bounds. I mean, that's big-time ball. And people probably don't see that as much because he's not making a tackle behind line of scrimmage. He's not sacking the quarterback. He defended a block. He knocked the guy in the backfield, got off, almost fell down, and is able to chase down a quarterback from a zero shade position, which is you just don't see that too often. So I think he's playing fine. I think the D line's again playing fine. It's just these offenses are identifying, okay, we gotta double some guys in this 3-man front because if we don't, they're going to kill us.
Mm-hmm. And with all of that being said, and the matchup this weekend against a team, I know there's been a lot of comparisons to what Illinois did, and I think the quarterback run threat exists. I think Illinois had better skilled players when it came to wide receiver than what Rutgers have, but they have a better running back. So you know exactly what Rutgers wants to do, and they're not going to really hide that. Everything you mentioned there, especially with the first and second line guys right there, what is being emphasized? Because Gary brought this up too, and this has been something about the defense with some of the leaky yards. When you look at Kyle Monangai, who gets a lot of those, how do you neutralize that threat there?
Yeah, I think where this is going to suit well Nebraska's defense, and why I tend to like this matchup a little better than some, maybe even Northern Iowa and Illinois in the run game is Rutgers runs the ball very similar to how Nebraska runs the ball. So I think that's going to bode well. A lot of the same concepts, split zones, power counter, some of the same stuff that they've seen since, spring ball, fall camp, so on and so forth. So I think they've seen some of these things. Now, Rutgers will add some wrinkles in here they'll kind of hit you with a couple plays, same concepts, and then boom, see if you're still on your P's and Q's and they'll throw a little wrinkle in there to see if you're staying disciplined or you're going to want to shoot a gap because you saw the same thing a couple times. But I think what I saw in Purdue from the jump from Illinois to Purdue was guys were just in better position defensively. I think there was a more defined edge within the defense, and that's huge. Setting an edge and forcing the play back into your help is everything. I think a lot of times leaky yardage, missed tackles comes from guys because they kind of panic because you get a guy, a running back, or even a receiver, and he kind of has a two-way go on you, and that's too hard. These guys are too good in the Big Ten and in Division I football that you give them a two-way go. it's a 10% chance really to make a tackle by yourself or at least get the guy get a shot on him. So I see that with more defined roles by everybody. I saw guys taking care of their doing their job. The edge was set. Force the ball carrier back into your help, back into your linebackers, back into your secondary. Guys were getting off blocks better because they know they're just put themselves in a better situation, not kind of scrambling around. A little less movement up front defensively, where I love, you can do some things in the run game. You can shoot gaps and stuff, but sometimes you can also get gashed that way because guys just get going fast so quickly one way. They get out of control, and teams can kind of cave it down, shorten the edge, and bounce it out. And all of a sudden you're putting your secondary, your safeties in a tough spot to come and fill when they're trying to play in coverage as well. So everything is just a little more defined, cleaned up. Like the edge is set. We just got to continue to do the same things against Rutgers. And like I said, Rutgers is damn near rushing for 240 yards through the first 4 games. So obviously they're going to keep doing that. Quarterback run game is here and there. You'd like to RPO it a little bit. But I think they're in a good situation just because the run game has been so similar to what Nebraska's obviously tried to do this year. And they've seen it all through fall camp and spring ball.
All right, so take me into the mind of a defender. And you touched on a little bit with the leaky yardage. And he's got 3 of his 4 games. He's gone over 100. Nebraska hasn't given up a 100-yard rusher since the Iowa game last year. They've only given up 1 rusher that's gone over 50. So that's kind of a game within the game and in a game that's going to be really physical. But what do you do as a defender? Because he runs angry. It's almost like he's beast mode, and he's got that extra gear that he hits for somebody who is that physical. But he's also got this other thing, Jay, watching them play this year, all of Virginia Tech, all of Washington. He's got this patented dead leg jump cut, and then he goes into beast mode. If you get him in space, because he gets a lot of yards after contact, so let's say the initial guy doesn't get him down, and now it's one-on-one, in the back of your mind, he loves that dead leg jump cut. How do you defend that?
Yeah, it's tough. So, sometimes it's, hey, best of luck. But like we talked about before with tackling, right? It's having bad intentions, and you got to go shoot your gun. You got to be aggressive. You can't just sit back there and let him. You got to go and you got to force the issue. And like I said, it's easy to force the issue when you know where your help is. You can shoot your gun to force them to cut back inside your help, or if you got help outside of you, you can shoot your gun to his inside leg to force him to jump it outside into your help. So it's just understanding defense and the schemes and where your help is. That's going to help immensely. But you're right; he's gotten a lot of his yardage after contact. On Bigger Rapid, we had one of their guys talk, and he says, offensive line has been great. I mean, most of his yards have been after contact, and so you got multiple guys are going to have to come in there. One guy you just hopefully get a hit on him, wrap up a leg, do something. Another guy can come in there, and then hopefully you can start ripping the ball out by the third guy. But you're going to have a lot of team tackling going on. This dude's tough. He's physical. He runs angry. He's pissed off. And it's going to be a great matchup for our defense. I think that's what this game comes down to, is how is our defensive run game stacked up against their offensive run game. And I tell you what, the way I saw things get cleaned up against Purdue in as well as Purdue has run the ball in the first 4 games. That's probably the only thing they've been able to do offensively. Things are going in the right way, and that's good, obviously, because what happened against Illinois was just very, very uncharacteristic of this defense and what we've seen with this 3-3-5 and Tony White's defense. So, but yeah, you're one-on-one with any running back. I don't care who it is. It's always a tough situation. You just got to force them back into your help and have a good understanding where your help is and be in total control. You can't you have to have, good footwork, good pad level, a good base to you. Otherwise, if you don't, you're probably you're gonna you're gonna be embarrassed.
Jay, I know a lot is being made of the secondary with the play of Sierra Wright. Knowing what Tommy Hill's dealing with, it still feels like anybody who's ever had plantar fasciitis, that bye week, if you could somehow get through this week and get through the bye week, then maybe he's in a much better place. But all of a sudden, you're getting Sierra Wright with a lot of good experience. Then there's that guy, Bly Hill, too. When you're looking at the secondary all of a sudden, especially post-bye week, does that seem like all of a sudden getting some of these reps for these younger guys and guys that are kind of waiting in the wings right now, that all of a sudden that is going to be a good problem to have when it comes to rotation and being able to sift through who's going to get the most snaps?
Yeah, totally. I think depth is what you want. Obviously, Tommy Hill was playing at a high level, and then you deal with plantar fasciitis, and I've dealt with it on and off, and it's a pain to deal with. Some days are better than the others. You just it's a pain tolerance thing, right? And whether you can do some things to do an injection to help, but rest and recovery is the biggest thing, and then just see how you can handle it. But it's always funny, it's some people are like, oh, it's a foot thing, but man, it's always the best comparison was, offensive linemen can get through a lot because they're like 18-wheelers, right? A little things go wrong, you can work through it. But those DBs and wide receivers, man, they're kind of like a Ferrari, right? They're high level stuff. You get one little thing wrong, that thing can't go. So he's got to work through it. But it's nice that Sierra's come through and played well, really, in the last couple games. I thought he played pretty good against Illinois, and obviously played well against Purdue. And then you get Bly hopefully coming back. You can't have enough depth in this secondary. And things are going to happen, especially when you get in the meat of the season. You're playing physical Big Ten teams every week. Something's going to pop up. But hopefully Tommy's back. We need him. He's a weapon on that defense. He can potentially erase one half of the field when he's healthy. But it's nice to see some young guys develop and step up when their number's been called. Because honestly, we haven't seen that in a few years. So obviously, guys are practicing the right way and taking the coaching the right way, which is obviously very important.
20 quarters into the season, what is the identity of Nebraska's offense?
That's a good question. I would say balanced. And I don't know if that's a good identity that people want. But I think they are balanced. I think they can – obviously, they want to run it. They're going to try to run it. Wasn't as successful against Illinois. The numbers are a little bit skewed because of the sack yardages towards the end of the game. But with the weapons you have at running back, multi-dimensional, but then it's okay. You want to shut down the run. You want to bring an extra guy into the box and play with 8. Okay. So who's going to take care of Banks? Who's going to take care of Nior? Who's going to take care of Fedoni? I think we've seen that with Rayola's ability to step up in the pocket and have a good presence and put the ball on the money and only where his guys can catch it. So I'd say balance is a huge thing. I think some weeks they're going to be able to run it well, and some weeks they're not, and they're going to be able to throw it well. So I think this offense is. I just as a defensive coordinator, you got to kind of pick your poison. And do you want to get after Rayola? Do you want to blitz them? Do you want to put your guys in man-to-man coverage against Nayor and against Banks and against Barney? You want to get guys in man-to-man coverage where we're running those little jet sweeps and bubble pad, whatever it is that we've seen through these couple of weeks and attacking the edges? Okay, go ahead, right? So it's just I think balance, and I love it. I like the balance, and it's just each week is just going to be its own little situation, obviously, and some teams are just have to pick it and what they want to do. But I think we have a counter right now offensively to a lot of things that defenses are trying to do to us.
This shouldn't be a surprise at all, but I think maybe one of the things to watch last week when it came to Dylan Raiola was how does he handle being away from the home environment, and as frustration had to be mounting in the first half when you're just not able to get points out of having the football, getting some first downs, getting some yards. The dude just does it. As far as his body language, nothing changes. And there is that calming effect. And you again saw that on the road. As a defender, as someone that is also playing their ass off like the defense was, but you also see that even keel approach by Dylan Raiola. How big of a boost is that, especially when you're hoping that second half is going to change and you're finally going to get the fruits of that labor.
Yeah, that's one of the most important characteristics and demeanors of a quarterback is you never can be too high and you can never be too low. You gotta flatline as hard as it is. And I know, listen, his blood's pumping and mine's probably going 1,000 miles an hour, but your ability to kind of slow everything down, which is probably the most impressive thing we've seen from Dylan as a young quarterback, is his ability to do that. Listen, I mean, the end of the Illinois game wasn't great, but that's a small piece of the puzzle. But his ability, his pocket presence, his ability to get the ball to, really where only his guys can get it. I mean, the 2 interceptions he's thrown are easily could have been caught by our guys. His ability to throw a very catchable football. The screen game passes have been point on. His timing, people take for granted. I mean, those little handoffs and touch passes that he's getting to Barney, those are hard. That's tough to get the timing of that, your footwork, the handoffs. That's not an easy task. And he's handled those fantastically. But his ability just to keep things going, if mistakes happen, hey, no big deal, right? We'll get it fixed. We'll get it handled. Let's communicate with our guys. Let's communicate with the wide receivers. Hey, we'll get it fixed. Well, hey, if it's on me, it's on me. If something happened, hey, you just got to, handle this route a little differently against this coverage. This is what I was seeing. Just do this. I'm guessing the same kind of communication is happening with Sat and Thomas on the sidelines. So it's a fun thing to have, man, because we've had good quarterbacks. But I tell you what, the demeanor, it's like he's 38, right? He's 18 going on 38, and it's fun to see, and it's nice to have as a defense, as a coach, as a program builder. And like I said, you're just going to see him just get better and better each week.
Yep, I absolutely agree. Jay, good to see you last night. More black shirts on that show, please. You and Jay were on the show together. Less eyebacks, just kidding. But always, we appreciate it. Enjoy the weekend. We'll talk to you next week in the bye week.
All right, sounds good, boys.
That's Jay Moore.